Welcome to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, where we discuss all things political, bringing you the top stories locally, nationally, and from around the world. I'm Reuben Abati, and This Day Live begins now. I'm Reuben Abati, your host on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show. I'd like to welcome my guest for today. Joining us is Professor Bola Akinterinwa. Professor Akinterinwa is Director General, Bolitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Also here today is our resident political reporter, Deputy Editor, Sunday This Day, Wale Olaleye. Gentlemen, you're welcome. We have a lot to talk about today. You stay tuned. We'll be right back. Nigeria's former military president, General Ibrahim Babangida, has asked Nigerians to vote out President Muhammadu Buhari in 2019. Former President Babangida, popularly called IBB, urges President Buhari to step down in 2019 for digital leadership, that is, the younger generation. He said, in the fullness of our present realities, we need to cooperate with President Muhammadu Buhari to complete his term of office on May 29, 2019, and collectively prepare the way for the new generation leaders to assume the mantle of leadership of the country. While offering this advice, he says, I speak as a stakeholder, former president, concerned Nigerian, and a patriot who desires to see new paradigms in our shared commitment to get this country running. While saying this also, I do not intend to deny President Buhari's inalienable right to vote and be voted for. But there comes a time in the life of a nation when personal ambition should not override national interest. End of quote. Now, it looks like, it's not raining anymore for the Buhari administration in Nigeria. It's pouring from all directions. First, we had President Obasanjo. Now it's President Babangida. The incumbent president's former colleagues, or colleagues, if you like, say, look, you have not done well, you have to leave. President Babangida's statement is a very long statement. He talks about change, he talks about the efforts of the administration, and obviously he too is not impressed. But he's saying, look, if he wishes to run, he could run. Unlike President Obasanjo, he's not saying he should not run. He says it's his right to run if he wants to. But that Nigerians should vote him out because the country is drifting. All the big men in Nigeria are saying this government is not working. What is really going on? You are the political reporter. Yeah.
When President Obasanjo, former President Obasanjo released his letter, I wasn't looking at it from the point of view of the messenger, but strictly in the context of the letter. And Obasanjo didn't say or write anything that we already didn't know about this administration. And say what you may, that letter was strictly patriotic. We are in their straits, as it were, and he's tried his best, I think, as he possibly could, but the indications are clear that the president lacks the gravitas to run this government. He does not have the capacity in whatever form or shape to continue, and I think he should listen. I'm not surprised that President Babangida is also coming out soon after Obasanjo wrote his letter. I'd expect that more and more people who are notable, and especially people that Bashir Momodu would describe as owners of Nigeria, they're going to be coming out, in trickles to say, stop this. I mean, he should actually dismount from this horse and then let's move forward. And I would think, honestly, strategically, that it's even in the interest of the North that a younger person is put forward in 2019. In that way, the North put together who will be having 12 years at a stretch. I mean, if you want to say personal or selfish interest devoid of this entire calculation, a younger person coming spending 8 years, who cares? North, south, west, whatever. Just somebody who understands what he's doing in that office, who understands the weight, the issues, and consult them. That's the kind of person that we require at this point in time. We are in total mess, and it does seem that the president is completely not in charge.
Well, Prof, if you look at it, I mean, it looks like President Babangida's statement is a build-up on the one by President Obasanjo. President Obasanjo asked for a coalition, and he has since launched that coalition. President Babangida is saying, look, we don't even want any old person. We want younger people to pursue this idea of change so that Nigeria can be moved forward. And he says we need digital leadership. Now, all of this combined, don't you feel that this government, the Buhari government, has already lost legitimacy?
I think that on the one hand, the legitimacy is being eroded gradually. The problem is that we have a conflict between the exercise of human rights on the one hand and patriotism, a new Nigeria on the other side. Fundamental right, both Olusegun Obasanjo and Ibrahim Babangida are agreed on the fact that they are not against the right of Muhammadu Buhari to run. They concede that. But they are looking at it from a different perspective that, well, should you want to exercise your right to contest, it should not be detrimental to the survivor, to the emergence of a new Nigeria that will be completely free from political chicanery, all right? From all the challenges with which we are faced. So in this case, you are quite right that Babangida's statement is a build-up on Olusegun Obasanjo's. That's the first point. The second point, as raised by Wale, and he's tried to. You see, the Buhari administration, as a body, as a collective, is the one having this problem, rather than the leader of the group. Because you can see that, as Wale pointed out, Muhammadu Buhari has not shown that he's fully in control of the administration. All right. But when we talk about legitimacy and political authority, he does not have any excuse to tender. And that's where I share your view. So in this case, if he is not able to have an effective control over the administration of the country, then why do you now want to lengthen, increase the period of stay in power? That means that should he come back 2019, as I used to say, then this will be continuity in change, meaning that you change the tenure, but continuity of the same policy, the same attitudinal disposition, and so on and so forth. So Babangida cannot be more correct by saying, vote him out, if that is his position. And when Olusegun Obasanjo is talking about coalition for Nigeria movement, look at the meaning. Coalition means bringing together. Now, for national movement, what is this national movement? Where are you moving to? What is the content? So they are now saying that at the end of the day, let there be a new Nigerian movement. Let it be in motion. But where you are moving to, we need to really define that.
Well, quite interesting, Wale. I mean, you must have been monitoring the situation. Since the release of the statement by President Obasanjo, we've seen a lot of people on the Buhari side. Although there was an official statement that was very conciliatory, patronizing, but they've since moved people out there, you know, abusing Obasanjo, throwing, you know, hurling abuses at him, Falano, Ishesage, all kinds of people, you know, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, calling Obasanjo names. There's even a famous article by Duro Nobule, you know. How do you think they will react to Babangida again? Also abuse him?
Certainly. They are going to follow in the same...
And you think abusing, you know, prominent critics of the administration?
It doesn't change anything. It is what it is.
So what are we likely to see going forward?
We're likely to see more people come out to say, indeed, I think we actually would need change for what it is in 2019 and not continue with this change, this hopeless change that we are dealing with right now. You know, just this afternoon, somebody very prominent in the administration was just, you know, joking with me, and then he said, you journalists, you need to go and do a proper study of this, of the chief of staff of the president, that you should do, that whatever the man is doing, that he was looking at it from an intellectual point of view, that whatever he was doing, for him to have seized power from a sitting president and controlling the power so much, he must be doing something very extraordinary, and that we need to understudy him, because it will be a very good political science classroom study. And that's, in a way, it's a mockery of what we are dealing with. A man cannot put his house in order. Leadership, like each time I try to break down the Buhari administration, I try to put it in two perspectives. I say there's a governance slant to it, then the leadership slant to it. In terms of governance, maybe we can see one or two things being done by people who are serious in government. But in terms of leadership, it's not been able to deliver leadership. You find the DSS and the EFCC, you know, struggling in public. What kind of administration are we running? I mean, that's impossible. Well, the president also, I'm sorry, the president authored an investigation into some corruption allegation. A report was submitted and he sat on it. Meaning what?
Prof, there seems to be a growing consensus against this administration. Now, we have had Buhari speak, Obasanjo speaking. We have had Babangida also issuing a statement. Some people will say we're in a season of letter writers.
Absolutely.
If you look at social media, you know, but is it an elite consensus? Do you see this objection to the government reflected among the people? Because we need to contextualize it properly. Is it an elite consensus against the government, or a mass objection to the as defined, the non-performance of the administration?
I think we can address that critical point in two ways. It is elitist on the one hand. Yeah. On the other hand, the elites are actually acting on behalf of the generality of the people. We are told that there is no smoke without fire. Those people who are speaking, they are the legitimate voices at the grassroots level. When we were discussing the issue of abuse and probably there will be a new level of abuses against IBB. The beauty of an accusation, the beauty of an abuse, is that, look, it shapes the attitudinal disposition of the person accused, especially if it is constructive. The truth is that, look, people condemn the person of Olusegun Obasanjo. People can now come and condemn the person of Ibrahim Babangida. But that is quite different from the issues they are raising. The issues are constant, they are correct, everybody knows about that.
And indeed, there are additional issues, very serious issues raised in the statement by President Ibrahim Babangida. He is even saying also categorically that Nigeria is at a crossroad. And we cannot continue like this for another 4 years. Well, on that note, we'll take a short break. You're still watching ThisDayLive, the Sunday talk show with me, Reuben Abati, here in Lagos. When we return, we will look at the situation in Kenya. Welcome back. This is still This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News in Lagos. Now, joining us now is one of our colleagues, Akinterinwa, a resident economist, CEO, Economic Associate. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Still on politics. Kenya faced a political crisis this week. The opposition party, the National Super Alliance, NASA, sworn in their leader, Raila Odinga, as the people's president at a ceremony in the country's capital, Nairobi. Thousands of supporters gathered at the ceremony, which comes after months of unrest in the wake of two contested presidential elections. Hours after being sworn in as people's president, NASA leader Raila Odinga took to Twitter to acknowledge those who have supported him. He expressed his gratitude to the people of Kenya for the mandate they allegedly, supposedly have given him and for their confidence in him, he says. I quote, "You came from all corners of the Republic to witness my inauguration, and it was good to see you out in millions." And he added, "Most of all, I thank the good Lord, my family, and all those who have undertaken this journey with us. We have arrived in Canaan. Thank you for staying the course with us." Has anybody really arrived in Canaan, in Kenya? Because on Tuesday, the Kenyan government then suspended 3 television stations, accusing them of complicity for airing footage of opposition leader Raila Odinga's inauguration ceremony as the people's president, ignoring the directives of the government not to do so. The Nairobi High Court, however, ruled against the government, stating the shutdown was unconstitutional and the stations should resume transmission. The government has defied the orders of the court, and the stations will stay off air indefinitely until the government completes its investigations, according to the Interior Minister. Now, we have a very serious situation in Kenya. There was an election turned upside down by the Supreme Court alleging irregularities. There was a follow-up election that was called on the orders of the Supreme Court. And Raila has been boasting for months, since October, that he will declare himself president. He has not only done so, he has changed the description on his Twitter handle to the official Twitter handle of the President of the Republic of Kenya. So effectively, you have 2 presidents in Kenya. One who is real, the other one who says he's the people's president. But the United States has taken the lead in issuing a statement to say there's only one president in Kenya, and that Raila Odinga is not recognized. So what do you think we're likely to see in Kenya?
Yeah.
Okay.
You missed a fact, in the narrative. Yes, there was an election which the Supreme Court nullified. Another one was scheduled. He opted out of that election.
God bless you.
So he's swearing himself in as president without any electoral victory.
No grounds.
So basically, they left the other candidate to go and face the election alone, and it was a walkover. He was absent. So how did he get his presidential mandate? The first election was nullified by the Supreme Court. The second one, you didn't take part in it. So what's your claim? Therefore, it's just a nuisance. It's just a nuisance, and it's only a matter of time. Yeah.
He has declared himself president at a public ceremony, and if Uhuru Kenyatta were to go after him, then that could ignite a civil revolt among his supporters. So what he has done, is he not really technically an act of treasonable felony?
Well, I would think so, and I also think he was smart enough to have couched his declaration in a way that would not earn him felony charges. That notwithstanding, I think whatever he's doing now, whatever charge is doing now, is not sustainable. It's just, it will wear out. It's just, with time, it's going to wear out.
Yeah,
he can't sustain this madness he's doing.
And
I think we have just one president in Kenya, like the United States government has said. And I would advise that the government shouldn't go after him. It should just let him mess around, but should be strict in maintaining law and order. And with respect to the shutdown of the media houses, I think the government went overboard. Regardless of whatever you may call this, I think we journalists have to do our job. You can't restrict us in that matter.
Even when it's some kind of rebellion against
That
the
is
state.
the way the world will get to know.
Open rebellion
the world
against
should
the
know.
state, which could also incite the people.
The
against
people
the
have a
government.
right to know, and you may want to do what is called responsible journalism at some point. Making sure what goes out there is not what could stoke some needless fire. But the job demands of us to do this, and the people have a right to know, and it is our job to take it to them. So,
well, the people defending the media, they are saying that the Constitution, the post-violence, post-crisis Constitution, in fact, expressly allows the freedom of speech and guarantees the right of the people,
absolutely.
to express themselves.
Many things are wrong with the electoral situation in Kenya. Many things are wrong. One, international intervention. You mentioned that of the United States. United States reportedly expressed concerns, gravely concerned about Odinga's position, but said deeply concerned about
the government.
The government's, yes, calm down the media.
Yes.
This one is a very dangerous policy and diplomatic position. But the United States is on record to have been towing this type of dualist diplomatic position. It was first shown in Angola during the crisis, the conflict between the MPLA and the UNITA. The United States, by that time, was giving political support to the UNITA, and at the same time, economic support to the government of Angola. The government of the United States instructed the UNITA to ensure that no bullet drops in the Cabinda. Cabinda is where the Gulf oil is operating, all right? You can fight, you can kill, you can do whatever, but you must not allow American economic interest, to be affected in Cabinda. So the United States was simultaneously supporting, the official, the legitimate government of Angola and the opposition. This is what we are witnessing now under Donald Trump. You express concerns gravely at one level, deeply at the other side. Now, to say that you condemn the government, but you still play with the opposition, please, we are looking for trouble.
Well, I'm not too sure that duplicity is proven here. At one level, I guess the statement of the United States is saying we don't encourage an attempt to grab power by any form of illegitimate means. Either you are declaring yourself or you are resorting to self-help. But at the same time, they are upholding press freedom, which is a fundamental, universal right.
That's a different issue.
So if they say they are deeply concerned, about the media, about media freedom, that's different from the desperation of NASA and Raila.
Diplomacy, please, in diplomacy, you express your concern, your interest by the choice of word. When you say you are deeply concerned
about press freedom, how is that an issue?
They didn't put most before. When you say you use the superlative words, that means you have reached the crescendo of your patience. Gravely concerned means that, look, negatively already, you are factoring the negative implications for purposes of your foreign policy calculations. That's the implication, we know.
But shouldn't we expect, other countries, in the light of what has happened, because people have not been speaking up. The other time, you know, you found a lot of people speaking on. It's only the United States that has been most vocal this time around. Shouldn't we have seen statements from virtually all over the world? Wale, what do you think?
They're probably studying the situation. And
no, they don't. I mean, why must they always study the situation? This is quite an express, very clear situation.
There's some issue, you know, it's a bit worrying that the government of Kenya, the legitimate government of Kenya, is not doing anything about or against the person declaring himself and his movement, was doing things against the press who covered it.
No, because ultimately they knew what was coming.
The real issue is that sooner or later, the government of Kenya has to stamp its own authority.
I agree.
And maintain law and order.
It's
their duty.
I think which law is the legitimate government ensuring? When the law of the land allows the press.
No. Right. The press is not the issue here. The people being covered by the press are the issue. You are not saying anything about the person that went to declare himself. You are saying things about the press that covered the event.
You know, I think the government is not...
The press coverage is beside the issue.
The government is not oblivious of what he's playing at. He wants them to come after him so that could stoke some very serious...
And it can incite the people.
So it's okay that they are being circumspect in this instance. I agree with them.
But let's keep a watching brief on the situation in Kenya. But whatever it is, I think that the weight of public opinion is that NASA and Raila Odinga, they are putting their personal ambition before the national interests of the Republic of Kenya. It's time now for a short break here on ThisDayLive, the Sunday talk show. But do stay tuned. When we return, we'll be talking about Dr. Alex Ekweme's legacy and Chief Olusegun Obasanjo's new political group. Well, not quite a political group, new movement, possibly. Don't go away. Welcome back to ThisDayLive, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Now, the Second Republic Vice President, Dr. Alex Ekweme, was laid to rest on Friday at his hometown, Oko, in Anambra State. Dr. Ekweme, 85 years old at the time of his death, was vice president from 1979 to 83. He died in a London hospital after a brief illness on Sunday, November 19, 2017. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Gentlemen, the Ekweme story is over. Glorious story, brilliant story. What will you say his legacy?
You know, he had an interview with a journalist, and then the journalist was trying to say an Igbo leader, and he quickly caught him and said, a former vice president of Nigeria, an Igbo leader? I mean, that for me was instructive about the kind of person he was. And then he was a fine gentleman, even from the way he spoke, his disposition, how he intervened in national issues. He won't take sides. I mean, those were the kind of people who have led us so far, you know, to the point where without necessarily planning to tribal or ethnic sentiments, he was truly a Nigerian. And I think we have a lot to pick from him in terms of our Nigerianness, if we actually must stick together as a people. He was one person who typified who a true Nigerian should be.
Very well. What's your take?
Yeah, the late Vice President, former Vice President Alex Ekweme, caught a very inspiring image right from 1979, you know, to 1983, that he was the Vice President of the Federal Republic. And since the military put an end to their regime...
Buhari shoved them out, Buhari.
Yes. Since the military put an end to their time in government...
And sent him to prison.
Yes, I sent him
and he wrote a book, From Presidential Villa to Prison.
And it was impressive that though he was incarcerated, No, he wasn't convicted for any wrongdoing.
Absolutely true. No corruption
his
charges, nothing.
uprightness was not questionable. Yeah. So he caught the image of an upright person in office, and even the military couldn't indict him. But since the return to democracy, he had also come out, several attempts, to vie, I think, at some point against General Obasanjo.
Yes.
And also against, I think, General Buhari as well. And until his passage at the, we can say ripe old age of 85.
That was a good one.
He conducted himself as a nationalist, as he says, as a respectable person. May his soul rest in peace, and long may his good memories linger.
Well, Prof, your take?
Well, we can talk about 2 points quickly. The first is that he helped to articulate, to give meaning to the conception of restructuring in Nigeria. When we try to look at the genesis of the debate itself, I think it has been traced to him. So when we are talking...
Well, and his group.
And his group,
Is it G31?
No, 34.
G34.
So at least he's on record
Leading
for
to
that.
the formation of the
PDP.
People's Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Then the second point, I think it was under IBB, the issue of protocol was raised during the time of independence anniversary. And should a civilian VP, for instance, be seated first before a Sani Abacha, for instance, will come in? Distinction was raised between political appointment and military appointment. We're talking about seniority. I think the same Alex Ekweme came out forcefully to argue and say, look, at the end of the day, political appointment should be considered senior, all right, to what obtains within the military. The military tried to argue that at the end of the day, the military appointed you civilians. And why should you be senior, especially? So when we look at the person of Alex Ekweme, it's an intellectual brand, all right, with very sagacious mind, who reasons objectively, and who will stand by it for as long as he's convinced. I think we will remember him for things like this.
And for that reason, even long after he had left government, he remained relevant. He remained a voice of reason. He remained a mentor and a source of inspiration for generations of political leaders, not just in his part of his country, but also in the entire Nigerian space. And at his burial, all the tributes that were paid were well earned and very much in place. But one more point before we go. You raised the point about him being an intellectual brand. I mean, the late Ekweme had degrees in about 4 disciplines: architecture, urban planning, sociology, law, and he even got a PhD in architecture. And I saw a comment somewhere saying, look, this man with all his gifts, intellectual gifts, was only considered good enough for vice president, a vice presidential position. And he was vice president to a grade 2 teacher. Okay, that was how the president put it. And why do we always prefer, educated people to be second fiddle? And even in the present dispensation, we have a professor of law, serving under a man, whose qualification is still a matter of a mystery. So, I mean, is this paradox a relevant point at this point?
It's an irrelevant point.
Are you serious?
Yes. The politics of who becomes the president has nothing to do with, your level of education. Yes.
No. I know.
Can I finish? It's very naive to reduce things to particular kinds of education. You refer to the incumbent, the current president. You said his educational qualification is what? He's a general. He had military training, which you don't have, which I don't have, and you can't laugh at it.
And that's enough to
It's not something you laugh at.
And that's enough to lead the country.
His deputy is a vice president. Does not mean that we should not, his vice president is a professor of law. Does not mean that the professor of law will not respect that this guy has military training.
You're not even off point completely.
You can't tell who is more educated. Must it be law? Must it always be law? Must it always be economy? Must it always be journalism?
You don't even understand the question.
Is training.
Mr. Akinterinwa, you do not even understand the question.
Okay. You don't understand the answer.
No, you see, I think you are unnecessarily missing the point.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Let me know the point that I have missed.
Professionalism.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Is quite different from your academic qualifications.
Or knowledge.
Or knowledge.
Or
they are two different things.
Or exposure.
If you go to University of Lagos now, they will tell you holders of mild or MBA, you cannot go for PhD. All right? Why? Because one is professional. The other is not. In France, a distinction is made between two MPhils, Masters of Philosophy. One is called DOSS, Diplôme d'études supérieures spécialisées. Now, if you are going into, let's say, international organizations all along, they will orient you to go for the course that will lead to DESS.
A research-based program.
Now, if you are going to be an academic, you will go for DEA, Diplôme d'études approfondies. All right? In this case, you will be tutored, you will be taught along research and so on and so forth. Now, the point now is that when you go for DESS, when you are a professional, like our president is a military professional, right? And you have to go through those trainings. Now, emphasis is placed on the profession itself. It's quite different from having a PhD degree or master's degree, etc. Now, the import of that one, on what we are discussing here now, is that at the end of the day, does a professor of law in a position to guide, to assist, to advise the professional? That is the question. So it does not have anything to do or to say somebody is suggesting that it doesn't matter.
Prof, don't worry. Let's leave the matter. I think the answer to it is open-ended.
Honestly.
I mean, is it not in the same country, Nigeria, that we have had people, bringing fake certificates and causing controversy, and all of that, and people arguing about what the Constitution recommends as a minimum. But what I think we can take away is that, there's a lot to be said for knowledge, for exposure, for experience, for education, for understanding.
For military.
And when a person like President Babangida calls for digital leadership, that word digital leadership, when you deconstruct it, you will see that all these values.
What qualifies President Babangida to teach us about digital leadership?
Well, read the statement first.
What does he know
read
about
the statement
digitalism?
First. No, don't. I'm sure you have not read the statement. You are reacting to a phrase. Read the statement and contextualize it.
Mr. Akinterinwa is not a patriot, honestly.
No ad hominem arguments. He has a right to
his views. It's all right.
Anyway, let's move on.
No, you see, quickly, it was in this country that a school sat holder who was chairman of a local government council, when he was interviewed, and they are talking, the professors are saying, look, local government chairmen were earning 120,000, 300,000.
He asked the professors to come and be local government chairman.
Say, now, if you want to earn that, come and be politician.
Anyway,
and this is a school sat failed
let's move on.
Let's do something. So you can now see the impact of
Let's
what we are
go back to
saying.
the Obasanjo story because there's been a follow-up on it. On Thursday, in Abeokuta, Ogun State, former Nigerian President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo inaugurated a political group after the launch in Abuja, and that group is called the Coalition for Nigeria Movement. Present to support him at the launch were Olagunsoye Oyinlola, former governor of Osun State, and Donald Duke, former governor of Cross River State. At the ceremony, which had hundreds of attendees, Chief Obasanjo filled his registration form as a member of the Coalition for Nigeria Movement, and he submitted it to the national coordinator of the movement, Olagunsoye Oyinlola. Now, this is a follow-up, as I said earlier on. That group was launched in Abuja. Now, President Obasanjo himself has filled the form. And he kept saying that it's not a third force, that it's a movement. Although that's a bit ambiguous to me, because the third force, as Prof will remember, was a movement in France between 1947 and 1958, when a set of socialist groups came together and they seized power. Okay? And they were able to grab power, and they were in power till 1958, but they had issues, ideological differences, and then the third force collapsed. And since then, there have been moves to revive the third force in France, but that has not quite happened. So even when you say you are forming a third force, the only objective could be to grab power, and it can only be through the platform of a party, of a political party. But President Obasanjo insists that once that movement morphs into a political party, it will withdraw. So, I mean, about 2 weeks after the initial declaration, the form, the mechanism, the shape of that movement is still not yet clear. But as an attempt to mobilize the Nigerian people to achieve the same objective that has been defined by President Babangida, I think that there are people who are saying this is a valid intervention. I'll start with Prof, but terrible, I will also allow you to say something.
That would be very kind of you.
To express your...
That would be kind of you.
Prof.
Yeah, I think that the intervention of Olusegun Obasanjo is perfectly in order. It is called Coalition for Nigerian Movement. Now, movement is synonymous with progress. It's not about motion now. And when you look at what IBB said, which is another valid intervention, we are now talking about movement towards good governance, movement towards national unity, national integration. Now, movement towards national security. Now, all these objectives, what they are all talking about, it is not that Muhammadu Buhari is not much concerned about them, but the issue is the manner, the approach, the way, in fact, his attitude towards it. That's what is generating problems. And that's why I think that the former heads of states and president is now, are now saying, look, let us find an enduring solution to the challenges that all of us have identified. So I think the incumbent president must be courageous enough to learn from the experiences, especially of his predecessors.
Well, quickly, what's your take?
Yes, one thing I noticed from the Obasanjo, end is that he suddenly realized that there's a problem with leadership recruitment process, and then he thinks there's a need to start guiding so that we do not keep, dancing on the same spot over and over again each election year. And that is what is beginning with this movement, which is very commendable. I'm not particular.
Many of the members are of the old stock.
I know, but you have many of these old stock who can actually, like Donald Duke. That's an excellent brain who will do a lot of work if allowed. So, and it's not even saying these things are restricted to these people. And he has actually said if it's going to the point of election, he's going to pull back. But again, let's just mobilize ourselves. Let's see from amongst ourselves who can do this job. And I think it's about time we started this so that we can actually get away from this, I don't know.
Right. Yes, I hope this will be the last one, but if you start a controversy.
No, we are going to take him out.
Yeah, well, it will be very naive to trust the motives of President Olusegun Obasanjo.
Or President Babangida.
Or Babangida, for that matter.
More people will come, you will keep questioning the motives.
Yeah. What's their objective? What's their stated objective?
No, Nigeria. They say Nigerians don't
want
Babangida. Buhari again.
I'm talking.
Okay.
Yeah. So Obasanjo, the objective of Obasanjo's coalition is to persuade Buhari not to contest in 2019.
No, to mobilize Nigerians.
Right. That he shouldn't contest, he should retire, right? Babangida says he should be voted out. So the coalition is to stop Buhari.
No, because it's tired.
This is corruption. Fighting Buhari back.
No, but from the
this is corruption fighting back.
How is corruption fighting back?
President Buhari
that there was something they wanted from administration and he didn't do.
If Buhari has done their corruption batch very well, these coalition people will not be working free on the streets of Nigeria.
Don't forget that Obasanjo once employed him. And Buhari
as what?
As minister. Is his guy he hired?
They both served in the same regime. Obasanjo himself was in employment.
Look, I know Obasanjo, any day, anytime, Obasanjo will gladly say that he knows him. He knows his strengths, he knows his weaknesses. No, we are not going to close yet. Obasanjo knows him, he knows his strengths, he knows his weaknesses. He knows he does not have the capacity, either intellectual or other, to run the administration.
But we know he has capacity.
I have to take this program back.
He hasn't even exhibited that.
He is fighting corruption.
In fact, Prof here is an example.
Gentlemen, no, I have to take this program back. We'll go on a short break, and then we'll be back before the end of this program. Welcome back. This is still ThisDayLive here in Lagos on Arise News. The Senate President in the plenary on Wednesday read a letter written by President Muhammadu Buhari to the Senate regarding the Fulani herdsmen killings in Benue State. In the letter, the President highlights the steps his administration has taken to end the crisis in the state, including meeting with the Minister of Interior, Abdurrahman Dambazao, and the Benue State Governor, Samuel Otom. He said, and I quote, "Action is being initiated and I expect to receive maximum cooperation from the Senate in line with paragraph 3 of the Senate resolutions." But how many people believe the president? Because indeed the latest information is that when Fulani herdsmen attacked people, the state did nothing. When chief farmers, in a retaliatory response, attacked Fulani herdsmen, lorry loads of soldiers were dispatched. And people are still saying, look, we're still dealing with the same situation, whereby, political intervention, governance is ethnically determined. Prof.
You see, what is most unfortunate is that we are dealing with hard facts. But dealing with hard facts is now misinterpreted as if one is against or wants to criticize the government. No, I think Ayo should take a cue from this particular point by asking this question, and I want everybody to address it. When President Muhammadu Buhari came to the open and said his government has done the necessary, they've done enough to prevent further killings. How do we now explain that after taking adequate measures, we still have reports of killing of the same people? Please take yesterday's papers. I'm a research fellow. We see people still being killed after the intervention of the government. Please, we see on a serious note. If you are not honest with yourself, never can you be honest with another person.
Absolutely.
This is the issue. So we want to address issues. I'm not bothered about the person of Muhammadu Buhari. I'm not even concerned about his office as president, but I'm concerned with his attitudinal disposition to national issues. This is the question, and we need to address it. Now, for instance, you sent a letter to the Senate saying you have done X, Y, Z. And now you have done your best, but your best is not good enough for the national security question. Please, this is the issue.
No, let me take Akinterinwa first.
Right. Well, it's good that the president is speaking, to the issues, because before now, the criticism was that the president said nothing. Okay, now he has said something. And that's commended. That's commended. He has told the Senate what it is, the steps he has taken. Well, whether you could blame the president for the actions of some criminals, the president leads the process of law enforcement.
And has a responsibility too.
So I don't think that because something happened the next day, then it's the fault of the president. He's making efforts. There's a committee of the vice president and some state governors trying to look for solution to these issues. So let's hope. Let's hope that the actions being taken.
Quickly, Wale, 90 seconds.
Ultimately, it is not about the president acting or speaking up or something. At what time did he do that? That is what I talk about, delivering leadership. At the point the entire country is crying, that is when he comes out. He couldn't even take the initiative to act on the spot. That is bad leadership. And then I've always held this position. The president lacks the capacity to be fair. From the moment he spoke about that 95%, 5% theory in America, I knew he lacked the capacity to be fair. It's just been him. The way he answered the question, he said, let's be honest. Don't let us deceive ourselves. There's no way some people will give me 95%. That is, he lacks that capacity to be fair.
95% of votes.
Of votes, and I'll treat them equally. That isn't a president, a supposed president of Nigeria. It's clear. And so when Obasanjo wrote that he was clannish, he was just saying the obvious. So why crucify him? Please, don't defend this president on the streets.
Anyway, we've got to go. It will be interesting to see how Nigerians react to the latest information, the statement from President Ibrahim Babangida and the content of his statement. But obviously, these are very interesting times in Nigeria. And the times will probably get more interesting. As the Chinese say, may we live in interesting times. You've been watching ThisDayLive, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Reuben Abati. From our entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.